veterans issues and stories that will make you laugh, cry, and feel proud. Veterans News always focuses on the military, past and present, and on our first responders. Veterans News is brought to you each week by Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens and Nursery, keeping you blooming since 1952. All right, 19 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I've never felt old, Robin. I have just not ever felt old. In about maybe a month or so, I turned 60.
Yep, you do.
But I've never felt old. And every time I've reached a milestone, like the 50, the 40, the 30, every time, even the 20, people would say, "Oh, you're gonna be an old man now." Oh, well, I don't feel like one. And now maybe when I'm 90, I'll feel like one. But even that, I don't know. I just don't. And yet, at the same time, I never really felt young. Here's the odd thing, the irony for me, I guess, or whatever word is appropriate. I've just always kind of lived my life and done what I've done. And yet, every once in a while, I'll think I should do something, and I will sink to that demon that says you're too old to do that. You're too old to do that.
Yeah, I hate that feeling.
Like bungee jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge. You're too old to do that.
Yeah, I think we can.
I better listen to that demon. Jake Ducey is on the phone. He is going to inspire you to do things regardless of how old you are, regardless of your circumstances. And there are hundreds of stories out there that are just so inspirational from people who have overcome the odds, whether it was poverty or obesity or addiction or age or whatever it may be. It says, in fact, that Jake himself is the survivor of alcohol and drugs. Gosh, he's just a young man, too.
Yeah.
Well, good thing he straightened that part of himself out. He has raised money to build a school and a home for orphans in Guatemala. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
He's written a book, a very powerful book, and endorsed by two of our favorite guests. Jack Canfield and John Gray have both been on this show, and they're both endorsing his book.
Yep.
The book is called The Purpose Principles, How to Draw More Meaning into Your Life. I love where we're going with this. Jake Ducey, good morning, Jake.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
What an awesome background. I've already, just a little bit I know about you. Where are you right now?
I'm in Los Angeles, California.
See, that makes you even better. I love L.A. I love it more than what's the guy, Randy Newman. I love it more than Randy Newman. Do you know Randy Newman? Or the name?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't know Randy Newman? You're too young.
He's so young.
He did the song "I Love L.A." So anyway.
Yeah, well, he would be Jake's grandfather.
Yeah, he could be my grandfather. I think.
That's right.
I think he's. Well, good for you for coming to this life. How bad were you? Was it an addiction to drugs or was it a habit? How bad were you involved with those two things?
Well, I mean, I think it's a hard thing to define as a young person. I would say the average young person is excessively drinking extremely heavy until they pass out, especially in college 2 to 4 nights a week. I had flipped my car down a ravine when I was drunk. It was
You're lucky to be alive.
Any night could have been, the night where I made the wrong turn.
Right. Well, good for you for stopping. What was there an aha moment, or what do you say when the light came on and you said, "I got to stop this"?
Well, I think ultimately what happened was, as a freshman in college, I grew up. I excelled in sports in high school, had offers to play college basketball, and my path looked set. And I started to wonder, is this my path at all? I was studying business because, well, that's kind of what you do if you go to school and you're a young male. And when I got there, I started to ask those questions, and ultimately I left school, and I decided that most of us are gambling on the biggest risk of all, and that's the bet that one day then we can have the freedom to do what we want. And I realized, gosh, I was so not where I wanted to be in the college classroom that, as a result, all I was doing was just going out and blacking out drunk. And so actually leaving to travel was probably the single most pivotal and important decision that I made.
Because why? Why?
Because it got me out. It got me out of everything that I thought I knew was the world. It got me out of. It got me out of here. You wake up here, you study this subject that you don't want to study, and then you go do this here, and then the only alternative on the weekends for a life that has no meaning is here's the party, here, and here. Here's the booze. Here's this. Here's the drug.
Do you know what I think, Jake? I've thought this a few times in my life, that we are like different seeds of different trees. Let's say, if you're what grows an oak tree? An acorn? Oak. So if you're an acorn, you're going to be an oak tree no matter what people tell you you should be. And if somebody tries to make you into a birch tree, or I'm trying to use a metaphor here, but I think you see where I'm going. There's no way you're either going to die or you're going to become an oak tree. So and I think that's the same with us. Like if somebody was trying to force you to become a basketball player, and that's exactly what you were meant to be, let's say, then no problem. But if somebody was trying to make you a basketball player or a businessman, and those two things didn't fit you, you wouldn't enjoy life. You wouldn't be contributing to life. And so maybe that's what you were up against.
Oh, it was absolutely what I was up against. I feel, that recently there's a Gallup poll that came out in fall 2014, and they talk about, or the survey is the thousands and thousands of Americans that got surveyed, and 76% of whom were actively disengaged from their jobs. 76% of them didn't like their careers. And I think that I was experiencing the beginning phases of that, going through something that, why am I doing this? Did I choose this?
So how did you know what you should be doing? How did that happen for you? Especially, how old are you?
I'm 23.
So it could be. I'm 23. Some people don't figure it out till they're 50. You know what I like them, but I don't like them? The fantasy camps. Because fantasy camps to me represent people who live their life the wrong way and wanted to at least have a fantasy of doing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, what happened for me was I just took a risk. I decided I was going to travel around the world, but ultimately what I found was it wasn't about finding myself in the next country or the next place. It was actually about coming back and creating myself, building my life, seeing how I could make a contribution to the world. And I was 19. I was like, I'm gonna write this book. I'm so excited, and it was called Into the Wind, about my travels. But no one else thought it was a good idea, and I couldn't get a publisher. And painfully, I had to self-publish the book, but I filled my car up, I knocked on people's doors, I learned how to do my own PR, and it made it to the top 300 on Amazon, and Penguin Random House picked me up, and the new book, The Purpose Principles, that, as you said, Jack Canfield and John Gray endorsed, and it kind of launched from there, and it really... I found this path that I was on, I think first from walking away the path that was given to me, and then after taking that initial step into that fear, as you were saying, into that uncertainty. Am I too young? Is this too different? Am I too old? We all have those thoughts in our heads. And I think in spite of the fear, instead of being fearless, in spite of the fear, was when everything started to open up.
Yeah, I bet you are inspiring all ages. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And that's one of the most wonderful things, because you have found your calling, and you might have been able to get into a job that paid megabucks, but you wouldn't be doing the job or yourself justice if you stayed there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what I think at the core of that the Purpose Principles is about. I use the stories of success and failure between many of the world's biggest achievers and difference makers to share that, because I feel when I know I found in my life, when I could recognize that even if this looks good on the outside, if it doesn't feel good on the inside, then ultimately I'm doing myself more harm than good.
So the Purpose Principles, I love the title. I mean, the title kind of says it right away. We have to have a purpose, feel that we have one, and then pursue it, and kind of know that is our purpose. Tell us the principles part. What would be the principles part of that?
Well, I'm fascinated in what's the common thread between the world's greatest achievers and the world's greatest difference makers. So I broke it into 15 principles, and I use many stories to illustrate that range from someone like Jack Canfield to someone like Taylor Swift, and anyone across the board from an entertainer to humanitarian. And there's these common threads that many of the world's most on-purpose people have, starting with most of whom have a vision. Helen Keller says that it's better to have no sight than to have sight but no vision. It's better to be blind than to have no vision. And so it starts with a vision, and it's not necessarily that we just find it in 5 seconds, but I think there's a starting place that we can come from in having goals and starting to give ourselves a direction rather than follow the direction of others. So I think starting and writing down a few goals, whether it's just even a goal to lose 5 pounds or gain 5 pounds of muscle, or whether it's a goal to eventually write a book and writing a couple pages a day, or to build your first garden, or to start going and talking to that person we find attractive. I think the vision develops as we start living life on our own terms.
I love your enthusiasm, and I love your message. We're out of time, Jake. Give us a website for the Purpose Principles. Is it on Amazon?
Yeah, it's in Amazon and bookstores across America, The Purpose Principles, and my name's Jake Ducey, D as in David, U-C-E-Y. So if you go to Amazon, type in The Purpose Principles, or you go to jakeducey.com, you can find more information.
Well, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from you. And, the world needs motivational people. And
especially young ones.
And Tony Robbins is getting old, so good for you. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate you being on the air with us and getting up early to do this. Keep it up.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. We'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA.
This is the Salvation Army, and I'm Major George Patterson to let you know that the Salvation Army is available 24 hours a day to provide help to anyone. We also have a family store at 120 Northwest 10th Street in Ocala. On Tuesday to Saturday from 9 to 4, you can do your shopping, or if you want to donate, you can call 352-732-4469, and we'll even pick up 352-732-4469. All funds generated by our store go into the programs here in Marion County to help the needy.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking: will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Pozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.